Welcome, everyone, to our very first episode of Fearless Female Founders. This is season 1 called Let's Go. This season is going to be all about getting started and, hitting go on going for your dreams, launching your business, and embracing your entrepreneurial spirit. Throughout the season, Kylie and I will be sharing learnings and experiences from our own entrepreneurial journeys. And our hope is to create a community that is supportive and honest and let you know that you're not in this alone. In this episode, we're going to be diving into facing the fear, that very first step of embracing the challenge, overcoming the doubts, and going for your dreams. We're so glad you're here, and we're so glad to have our very first guest here, Beth Jensen. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. This is awesome. What a great topic for a podcast.
Yeah, awesome. So Beth is sort of right in this zone of making that, facing the fear and embracing her dreams and really going for it. Beth, do you want to just tell our listeners kind of where you've been in your career and what you're starting to work on now?
Definitely. Well, thank you for having me. I have 2 jobs right now. My full-time job is the news director leading the news department at Kello TV, the CBS affiliate in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And then the reason I'm visiting with you is because about a year ago, I launched a side hustle called Content Compass Consulting. And I help primarily small businesses and nonprofits tell their stories online.
Awesome, Beth. And so I think there's an obvious connection between what you do now in your career and what you've started, but maybe for the listeners, you could just kind of, what made you start this? What was the driving force behind that?
I think it's maybe 3 things. First of all, it was timing. Both of my kids, my daughter just graduated from high school last year. Now they're both in college and out of the house. And I was like, gosh, I kind of have some extra bandwidth. Like, what should I do with that? And I just kept having, it's like, fate or the universe or God, or, I'd have this series of lunches and people would be like, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And it like, this path opened up and I was like, well, that sounds kind of fun. I would say like the past 30 years working in news, I start every day with the story idea meeting. So every day I bring 5 story ideas to work, and we all do. And then we produce dozens of pieces of content every day. And then the next day you have to start all over again. So my mind, it's like a sickness. I could be talking to you at lunch. I could be driving to work. I could be scrolling on Facebook and I'm like, that's a story idea. That's a story idea. That's a story idea. And often people will say, Beth, hey, I have a story idea for you. And that I appreciate. And many times I'll be in a group and they'll be like, Beth, this is not a story idea. You can't report on this. Like, okay. Yeah. I can respect that. But my mind is so wired that way. It's so easy for me to see the nugget of content that will play well with people. And then I also, in addition to working at Kello, I've served on, I think it's 18 different nonprofit boards over the years. I really love getting involved in the community. I love helping nonprofits connect with donors and make things happen. That is a huge thing that fills my cup. So then when I was like, gosh, I can dig in and help nonprofits really connect and make an impact. I think a lot of times if you own a business, a small business, or you run a nonprofit, you are so busy that you're like, it's like, I don't know where to even start, or how does this work? Or you're busy with a million other things. It's hard to do it consistently, monitor the metrics, and get results. And I can help with that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you mentioned that you started around a year ago. Did you feel the entrepreneurial spirit throughout your career, or was it really, those peers saying, hey, you should really go for this, that kind of got you thinking about it?
I think I've always had that in me forever, like my whole life. And, like, gosh, when my kids were little, I would like sell, outgrow their clothes, I'd sell them on eBay, or I have Poshmark stuff, or I've always thought like, oh, that's a good business. That's a good business. But I really love my day job. And so it's like, it was never like, oh, well, I'm just going to set this aside and go all in on this. Obviously, you can tell I've been there for a million years, so I don't do change very well. So this has been great because I can sort of dip my toe in. All my clients so far have been word of mouth or people I've known. And so that's been really rewarding too. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I talk about the entrepreneurial spirit as like a sickness because it's something that I think is just always in you. And I always tell people, and this is a true story. When I was a little girl, I wasn't playing with dolls and Barbies. I was literally like setting up fake businesses. And we're not talking about my little grocery shop. We're talking about, no, I created an office and I would have invoices and I would have clients,
I love
and
this.
it's just like little scribbles on paper because I didn't know what an invoice was at 7, 8 years old, right? But I just scribble it out. Like I knew that there was something like that. And,
Meant to be, for
that
sure.
just doesn't go away. It's just like an itch that you just have to scratch.
I like to call it like you see the light. So it's not a sickness to me. It's like I see a light and it flickers. And
Yeah.
like once you see the light, it's hard to shut the light off. You have to kind of keep going toward it and see it. So yeah, it's fun when you see the light and you're like, huh, I could do it different.
Mhm.
So when was that aha moment then for you that clicked that a year ago? You're like, I'm going to just start this. It was kind of all those pieces together, or kind of what kind of triggered you to actually go for it?
Yeah, I just think it's something that really lit me up. And as I can, again, being in the same job for a long time, I'm good at it. I get it. I know what it takes. And then learning new things and succeeding in a different way really like made me feel sparkly. It's just like, oh gosh, look at this. I can figure this out. I don't know. There's just a lot about it that makes me really happy. It checked a lot of boxes. I wanted to do something that helped people. I wanted to use my communication skills. And, back in the day when I was a reporter, like one thing I loved, I'm always a very curious person. And I really like every day, it was easy for me to sort of fall in love with my story. Like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. And tell me more and let me figure this out and let me explain it this way. And this business really allows me to do that again, which I love. Now I'm in management, which I also love. That's, my day job is mostly people, not content. And so this helps me kind of return to my roots and present content. And I love like the instant metrics you can get. I love the rush of like, see that worked. Oh my gosh, people are responding to that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that you talked about that because a lot of people who are in this moment of indecision, like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I will like this. All of those fears and doubts can be really all consuming, at that stage. But it's so good to hear. And the experience was the same, I think, for me. And Kylie probably would say the same. But like once you do it and commit to it and go for it, it's so much fun, right? You get that like energy and that spark. And like, I want, I have to pull myself away from the work because it's just so much fun.
You just get in the groove.
Yeah.
Like I forget to eat lunch sometimes till 3. I'm like, oh, that would never have normally happened in like a structured job.
Yeah.
But I'm in the flow of something that I feel really passionate about. It's super fun to explore that and be able to have the freedom. So as you think about balancing both your side business as well as full-time, kind of how do you manage that? I know that was really difficult for me to do and kind of keep the lines separate, and I could only do it for so long. Do you have recommendations for listeners starting? Maybe they want to start their side hustle but want the full-time job. What are your suggestions or thoughts?
Well, it's so interesting when you're saying like time flies because that's exactly what happens. I do this on nights and weekends and I'll come home and have dinner and spend some time with my husband. And then I'll be like, okay, I got to do work. And I log on at, like 9:00 at night. And all of a sudden it's like midnight. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to bed. But I don't want to go to bed. I want to do like one more thing. And then I really have to focus on weekends too. Like Saturday mornings are like the best because you can get like a nice uninterrupted block where, before I was like, honestly, I was scrolling on my phone. I was watching TV. Like this was time I could give up. And I just find this new use of my time so rewarding that it's worth it. But yeah, the trick is then, of course, like you're working till midnight or you're working till 1, and then you're like, I've got to shut my brain down. Like I'm
Mhm.
tired, but then I got to go to bed and I need to like decompress in a way that I want to dream about work all night.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a challenge to find the time for both, but honestly, it's worked out better than I had imagined. It's not been too difficult to do nights and weekends in time and again, like because my kids are both gone, out of the house, it's like, God, I realized how many school activities I was going to and how many errands I was running and how much time we were spending. And I love them so, so, so much. And when they come home, it's the best thing ever. But yeah, I just have a little more bandwidth. So I'm using it on me and it's really fun.
That's a really smart way to approach, making that switch, right? From a full-time job to like launching your side hustle is doing that dance and doing that balance, even though, I mean, it is difficult and you're probably going to have late nights, but a lot of people do that because it does give them a nice sort of on-ramp, off-ramp potentially to going for it. And it can be a really smart way to do it. I know in my experience, um, I had some money saved up, where I had a kind of a comfortable cushion and made the decision to let my employer know, like, hey, I'm giving my notice, but I gave like a 3-month notice, right? Because I knew that they would appreciate that, right? And it was sort of this nice little buffer time to kind of be able to like let that decision sink in and have that date that, okay, this is real as of, X date. And that worked out really nicely. I think you did something similar, Kylie, with
I
your
did.
transition. Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get there, and maybe that's where you're at right now if you're listening of, man, I want to do it. I'm getting accounts. I'm working full time. I'm just burning the candle at both ends. How long can I do it? I'm scared. And I think that for me, it was really starting to face the what if I didn't do it now, would I ever do it? And what would that look like for me? And I think that you always should bet on yourself. And I know it's easy to say on the other side, right? Like Sarah and I and Beth are all starting to do it, but it's just initially betting on yourself. And you can always get a different job, but you can't always take the leap. And I think that's what brings me back to this is where I'm at now. It doesn't mean it's forever. And I think that's the fun of it too. It's the challenging part, but also the most fun. The highs are high and the lows can be low, but just ride it out.
Yeah. I think one of the things I kept telling myself in that, preparing for that time of having that conversation, letting my boss know that I would be leaving, and by the way, was like the most nerve-wracking conversation ever. But I kept telling myself, corporate America, the corporate world is always going to be there. That's not going to go away. And that's always an option to go back to. Like nothing is permanent. And, asking myself, what is the reality that I would want to accept? Is it a reality where I never tried this? Or is it potentially a reality where I tried it, failed miserably, or hated it, and go back to corporate America? And that made the decision so much more clear for me. It's like I'd much rather have known that I went for it, even if I fail, than always have that question in my mind of what if,
One extra thing just to add, and Beth, maybe you can start talking a little bit about this too, is when I went full time, someone said, business ownership is all about the ebbs and the flows. And as a solopreneur, you get to choose when you ebb and you flow. So for example, like for Beth, you can ramp up or scale back depending. And so I guess how do you find the balance of, ebbing and flowing as you kind of transition into doing this potentially full time in the future?
I think that is probably the most challenging thing for me is that right now I'm at a place, like I said, all of my clients have been people that I've met or have been referred to me by someone who I've worked with. And like, I'm so used to like, well, these are the hours I work and this is the paycheck I get. And I could do a really good job and the paycheck's the same. I could do a really bad job and the paycheck's the same. But the paycheck is the paycheck. Where now with this, you have amazing people, but then their life happens and they're like, oh gosh, I thought I was going to be committing to more, but now I need to scale back. Or I thought I only needed you for this, but actually I really need you for this and this and this. And it's being that ebbing and flowing. And as a side hustle is very challenging. And I am very curious to see how that would feel if this was my full-time job. But as a side hustle, it's very like, it's that I think is one of the scariest parts of the whole thing, is that sort of unpredictability, but it's also exciting too, because then all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, this is so much better, so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. But then it's also like, oh wait, this thing is not panning out the way I expected, which I think is pretty normal, but it's just a
Absolutely.
hard thing to get used to.
Yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
Then not working 8 to 5, like structured hours, it's hard to unwire of like what could be. How do I work best? What do my clients need? I still struggle with that. For sure. It's kind of just a whole unlearning process when you start working for yourself. So
I don't know. One thing to add real quick too, it's like, I don't know if this is true. It's definitely true for me. If most entrepreneurs would describe themselves as type A personalities. Like, Beth, would you say you're a type A? Kylie, what about you?
Capital A, probably.
Capital A?
Yeah.
Kylie, type A?
perfectionist, trying to be
yeah.
recovering, but not. It's
Yeah,
black
for
and white
sure.
for me. Gray does not work. And I feel like business ownership is all gray. So
Yeah,
that's so
exactly.
hard.
Which is just so funny, because I think not necessarily that you have to be that type of person to be a successful entrepreneur, but I find more often entrepreneurs that I talk to are that type of person. And it's just ironic to me that it's that type of person who has to learn how to let go of all that stability and predictability, who's used to just always counting on that biweekly paycheck, and now you have no idea. And it's an interesting sort of area of growth for us that we have to like accept and embrace,
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it is tricky. It does help to hear that it's not like just you, because it's new to me. It's helpful to hear it's not just me. And I think that's another thing that's been really helpful. I know, Sarah, you've been a great resource to me, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better too, Kylie. But Startup Sioux Falls is terrific for entrepreneurs. Our community has such a strong entrepreneurial network, and everyone has been so generous with their time and their advice. I had a co-founder when I initially started this who I love, but she's changed careers, and her capacity has gone back. So she is not as involved as she was at the beginning. So now it's mostly me. And it's nice to have other people I can text or call or have coffee with and be like, how do I handle this? Or what's this about? It's fun to be in a new learning phase of my career, but also it's nice to have people I can count on.
And it's so important. It's so important. I mean, this primarily one of the reasons why we started this podcast was to create that community and have that support, because we all feel these things. We all have these fears and these doubts and go through some of these same growing pains. And it's hard when you go off on your own and you're alone, or you feel alone, but you're not. And there's a lot of people out there that want to share and offer that support. And, Kylie and I have been kind of on the same journey. We started about the same time, and we kind of just like, we just kind of melded together from the beginning, because it's like important to have that support system to kind of help through some of those tricky, sticky situations.
Yeah. Have you leaned on other mentors or friends or tools, Beth, as you've gotten started? You mentioned Startup Sioux Falls. Are there any networking groups or anything that you found especially helpful kind of starting or navigating that would be helpful for the listeners?
I really can't say enough good things about Startup Sioux Falls. My co-founder and I did their fall boot camp last year, and we got a client out of that client helped lead me to Sarah. So that was
nice.
Great.
Yeah.
And then I took their 10-week co-starters class. In fact, we just graduated in December. And that group of people, and it was actually primarily women. There were, I think, 8 of us and one guy who's also terrific. But it really, that has been such a unexpected source of support and friendship. And, we have the group text, we have the private Facebook page. We're going to do weekly get together or monthly get togethers, starting in the beginning of the year. It's just, that really fills my cup too. I love connecting with people. And, so it's fun to connect with people who are the same phase of what is a very unique journey in my life. So that's been great.
I love that.
That's amazing.
Well, it has been such a good conversation with you, Beth. I thank you so much for sharing your insight and, the doubts and things that you face and the vulnerability of that. I just appreciate that so much. And we've covered a lot of really good things here. When you're starting off, it's so good to develop a plan, whether you are saving up to make that departure from a full-time job, or you kind of plan to do an on-ramp, off-ramp situation. Having a plan, if you can, and your circumstance allows it, is going to help you feel more confident. Kylie, you had a really good insight of always bet on yourself. At the end of the day, you've got to be your biggest cheerleader through this. You can and should have a really great support system, but your inner self-talk is going to be so important in making sure that you believe in yourself. Remember that on the other side of all that fear and doubt at the start of this is a lot of fun and excitement and joy and that spark. And so there is a light at the end of the tunnel if you're toiling with this decision. And for most going through this transition, you're going to have to stretch and grow. You're going to have to learn how to embrace some of the unpredictable nature of owning a business and being a solopreneur. But it is possible. That might seem daunting, but it is possible. And it can be kind of exciting, at the end of the day. And we touch on the support again, communities. If you're in Sioux Falls, and you have access to Startup Sioux Falls, that's a great resource. If you're listening from outside of our area, a lot of communities are starting these, business support and startup communities and organizations. So look and see what's out there. Get yourself out there. It might seem scary and challenging to go out and network and meet new people, but it really will benefit you and be something that you will feel glad that you have done it once you have done it. So anything else that I didn't cover, ladies, that you want to add before we close out?
I'd just like to say thank you for inviting me on, and I'm already hooked on this podcast. Even when I'm not going to be on it, I'm still going to be obsessed with it. So
I love it.
Thank you so much. I just think also I'm a huge fan of women supporting women. That's also a really important thing to me. So this is, it's perfect. And I'm excited to listen, and I appreciate your advice along the way. And I look forward to continuing to work with both of you.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Beth, so much for joining us. We are so excited for all that you're building and the dreams that you're chasing. If anyone wants to get in touch with you or your growing business, where can they reach you?
Absolutely. We have a website, contentcompassconsulting.com. You can email me at beth@contentcompassconsulting, and we are on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Amazing. And we will link the website and social links in the podcast description so you can grab those. But thank you so much for joining and having this great conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Take care.